The empty space in my driveway screamed louder than any alarm clock. It was just after 6 a.m. The Ohio sky was that pale pre-dawn gray, and my 1968 Ford Mustang was gone. For a moment, my heart seized up. Theft? An accident? But I knew, deep down in the pit of my stomach, it was neither. I saw the faint, greasy tracks on the asphalt where the tow truck had been. They'd taken it. That smirking 20-something kid in the cheap suit who ran the dealership. He thought he was teaching an old dog a lesson about paying on time. He thought he was just repossessing a car. What he didn't know was that he'd just given me the keys to his entire kingdom. He thought he had the ace, but I was about to show him what it meant to have an ace in the hole.
My name is Arthur Hayes. I'm 62, and for 40 of those years, I worked as a line mechanic for GM. I'm retired now. My hands are scarred with the stories of 1,000 busted knuckles and seized bolts. I know cars, not the new ones with their soulless computers and plastic engines, but real cars with weight, with character. My wife, Sarah, she passed 4 years ago. We'd always talked about getting a classic Mustang, a 68, her favorite year. We'd drive it up to Lake Erie on weekends, she'd say, with the windows down and some old Motown on the radio. After she was gone, the house got quiet, too quiet. My garage became my sanctuary. One day, I saw it online, a 68 Mustang Coupe Highland Green, sitting on the lot of a dealership over in Lima called Ace Automotive. It wasn't perfect, but it was solid. The price was a little high, but I had my pension and a bit saved up. It felt like keeping a promise to Sarah. Walking into that dealership was like stepping into a different world. Glass walls, music I didn't recognize, and young salesmen who looked like they'd never held a wrench in their lives. The owner, a kid named Chad, couldn't have been more than 30. He walked with a swagger that hadn't been earned, wearing the suit that was too shiny and shoes that were too pointy. He called me Chief and Pop, and when I looked under the hood, he patted me on the back like I was a golden retriever. "It's a beaut, huh? Real classic for a classic gentleman," he'd said, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. He talked a mile a minute about financing, interest rates, and bi-weekly payments. I wanted to pay cash, but he insisted their in-house financing plan was a better deal. Something about building a credit portfolio. It was all cheap talk, a sales script. I knew a hustle when I saw one, but my heart was set on that car. I signed the mountain of paperwork feeling a knot of unease. He treated me like I was a fossil, someone who didn't understand how the modern world worked. That was his first mistake. I brought the Mustang home and spent the next few weeks giving it the love it deserved. I tuned the carburetor until it purred, polished the chrome until it gleamed, and replaced the old wiring. It was more than a car. It was a connection to Sarah, a purpose for my days. I made the first payment on time, in person, with a cashier's check. I got a receipt. I'm meticulous about things like that. A man's word and his credit are all he has. 2 weeks later, I get a call. It's Chad. His voice is slick with fake concern. "Arthur, my man, got a bit of a problem here. Looks like we never received your first payment." I could hear the gears turning in his head. "That's not possible, Chad," I said calmly. "I brought it in myself. I have the receipt right here." "Yeah, well, our system says otherwise, Pop. Sometimes these things get misplaced. We're going to have to add a late fee, $200. And to avoid this in the future, we'll need to set you up on automatic withdrawal." I wasn't born yesterday. This was the squeeze. They create a problem, then sell you the solution. "I'm not paying a late fee for something I paid on time, and I'm not giving you access to my bank account," I told him. I'll bring a copy of the receipt and the cash check statement tomorrow." There was a pause. "Look, Arthur," he said, his tone shifting from slick to sharp. "The contract you signed is very clear. Payments are due on the 1st. If they're not in our account, they're late. Rules are rules." I spent the next week in a low-grade war with them. I sent them certified mail with copies of my proof of payment. They claimed they never got it. I called and was put on hold for hours. Every person I spoke to was a wall of polite, unhelpful nonsense. The late fees kept piling up. They added a document processing fee, then a default warning fee. It was a paper avalanche designed to bury you. They were treating me like a fool, a forgetful old man they could milk for a few extra $100. The anger in my chest was a slow, steady burn. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the deliberate, smug disrespect. They weren't just trying to cheat me, they were trying to break my spirit. And then, one morning, the Mustang was gone. Just an oil spot on the pavement where it used to be. When I called the dealership, Chad himself answered. "Morning, Arthur. Looking for something?" he chirped, and I could practically hear the smirk through the phone. "You know damn well what I'm looking for," I said, my voice tight. "Yeah, well, you were in default. We had to retrieve our property. There will be a repossession fee, of course. Storage fees, too. They add up quick. Better get down here with the full amount plus fees if you want her back."
For a day, I just stewed. I felt helpless. I called a lawyer, a guy my union recommended once. He listened, sighed, and told me it was a he said, she said situation. We could fight it, but the legal fees would be more than the car was worth. The contract was probably ironclad, written by their lawyers to protect them from everything. These buy here, pay here places are notorious for this stuff, Arthur, he said. They prey on people. Defeated, I sat at my kitchen table that night. The mountain of paperwork from the sale spread out before me. The contract, the financing agreement, the title application, it was all there. I wasn't looking for a loophole in the payment terms anymore. I knew that was a dead end. I was just looking for something, anything. My eyes scanned the fine print, the corporate jargon, the letterhead, and then I saw it. At the top of the main contract, in bold letters, Ace Automotive, LLC. It was the legal name of his business. Something clicked in my mind. Not the mind of a mechanic, but the mind of a guy who's seen his share of corner cutting and cheap shortcuts in his life. These hotshot business types, they're often so busy trying to be clever, they forget the basics. They focus on the hustle, the sale, the squeeze, and they get sloppy with the boring stuff, the paperwork. I fired up my old desktop computer. It hummed and whirred like an old engine, but it got the job done. I went to the Ohio Secretary of State's website. It's all public record if you know where to look. I typed in Ace Automotive, LLC. A record came up. I clicked on it, and there it was. My heart started pounding, a slow, heavy drumbeat. I read it once, then twice, to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. Business name, registration status, lapsed. The renewal date had been over 6 months ago. They had failed to file their paperwork. They had failed to pay the $100 renewal fee. In the eyes of the state of Ohio, the name Ace Automotive, LLC was now public property. It was available. A slow smile spread across my face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a man gets when he's been holding a losing hand all night and the dealer just accidentally dealt him a royal flush. Chad, in his slick suit and his hurry to squeeze an old man for a few bucks,
had forgotten to take care of his own house. He left the front door wide open, and I was about to walk right in. The next morning, I didn't call the lawyer. I didn't drive down to the dealership to scream and yell. I made a pot of coffee, sat down at my computer, and navigated back to the Secretary of State's website. I filled out a simple online form. It took me all of 15 minutes. I entered my name, my address, and the business name I wished to register. Ace Automotive LLC. I paid the $99 filing fee with my credit card. The confirmation email arrived a few minutes later. It was done. As of 9:32 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, I, Arthur Hayes, was the legal and sole owner of the name under which Chad had been operating his business for years. Now, I called my lawyer friend. Hey, Phil, it's Arthur. I need you to draft a letter for me, a formal cease and desist. I explained the situation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then a low whistle. Arthur, you old son of a gun, he said, a grin in his voice. You didn't. You actually did it. Just draft the letter, Phil. Make it sound as official and intimidating as possible. I want it delivered by a professional process server this afternoon, right in the middle of a showroom. I spent the rest of the day in my garage, cleaning my tools, organizing bolts and screws into their little drawers. I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. I pictured the scene in my head. A stony-faced stranger walking right past the shiny trucks and sedans, asking for Chad by name and handing him a legal envelope in front of his customers and his staff. My phone rang around 4 p.m. It was an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again and again. On the fourth try, I picked up. The voice on the other end was sputtering, a mixture of rage and disbelief. It was Chad. Hey, what the hell is this? What kind of game are you playing? I'm not playing any games, Chad. I'm simply protecting my business interests. It says right there in the letter, you are illegally using my registered business name. You need to cease and desist all operations under that name immediately. Your name? I've been Ace Automotive for 10 years. This is a mistake. My lawyers will bury you. Your lawyers should have advised you to renew your registration then. As for burying me, you can certainly try, but every day you open that dealership, every ad you run, every car you sell under my company's name, you're breaking the law, and I will pursue damages to the fullest extent. I could hear him breathing heavily, the sound of a trapped animal. The swagger was gone. The cheap talk was gone. All that was left was raw panic. What do you want, Hayes? He finally choked out. I want my car back, and I want you to learn a lesson. I hung up the phone. The next 24 hours were a beautiful, chaotic symphony of Chad's world falling apart. His own lawyers confirmed what my lawyer had told him. He was dead in the water. He couldn't legally advertise. He couldn't legally write contracts. He couldn't even answer the phone with Ace Automotive without violating the order. The bank that held his floor plan loan got wind of it and started asking very uncomfortable questions about the legal status of the entity they were lending millions of dollars to. By the next day, a flatbed truck, not a repo tow truck, but a professional carrier, pulled up to my house. My Mustang was on the back, polished and clean. The driver handed me an envelope. Inside were the keys, the clear title signed over to me, and a cashier's check. It was for the full amount I had paid for the car, plus an extra $5,000 for my trouble. An hour later, Phil, my lawyer, called. Chad's legal team was desperate. They wanted to negotiate the sale of the name back to him. "What should I tell him, Arthur?" Phil asked. I thought about it for a minute. I could have dragged him over the coals. I could have asked for a fortune. But that wasn't the point. It was never about the money. I said this: I'll sell it back to him for $1. Phil was quiet for a second. $1, Arthur? You could get 50 grand out of this guy easy. I know, but I don't want his money. I want him to know for the rest of his life that he was completely and totally beaten by an old man he disrespected. I want him to have to sign a contract to buy back his own company from me for a single dollar. The humiliation of that is worth more than any amount of money he could give me. So that's what we did. They sent the messenger over with the contract and a crisp $1 bill. I signed my name, took the dollar, and the whole sorry affair was over. I got the car, I got all my money back. Essentially, Chad had just paid $5,000 for the privilege of giving me a free 1968 Mustang. I still have that dollar bill. I keep it in the glove box of the Mustang, right next to the registration and a picture of Sarah. Sometimes on a nice evening, I'll take the car for a drive. I'll head out on the old county roads, windows down, the 289 V8 rumbling a perfect steady rhythm. The smell of the old vinyl and the gasoline is better than any air freshener. I drive past his dealership sometimes. There's a new sign out front, a slightly different name. The swagger seems to be gone from the place. I hear he's a lot more careful with his paperwork now. It's funny. In this world, people like Chad think power comes from a fancy suit, a fast sales pitch, and a team of lawyers. They think they can bully and bluff their way through life, that the fine print gives them the right to treat people without respect. They see a guy with gray hair and calloused hands, and they see a mark, a relic from a bygone era. But they forget that relics are made of stronger stuff. They were built to last. They forget that patience is its own kind of power, and that paying attention to the small details is what separates a craftsman from a con man. He thought he was playing chess, moving his pieces around to corner me. He never realized we were playing a different game entirely. And in my game, you don't win by being the loudest guy in the room. You win by waiting, by watching, and by having an ace tucked away where no one can see it. He learned that lesson. It just cost him one hell of a car to do it.
Like and subscribe.